Oh,
everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Lightning Bolt Show with Logan Ramey. Today, I'm very honored to have another ETA that pretty much pioneered the way. He started in 1972, Mr. Oscar Wilde. How are you, Oscar?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Logan?
I'm doing real good.
Thank
Well,
you for having me out here.
thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for
Um,
inviting me.
my first question I would like to ask you is, tell us how you got started into doing Elvis and when you started, and pretty much how you got until now doing it.
Well, I started ever since I was a kid. You know, not professionally, but I was usually on the floor listening to Elvis on my record player, and I started doing it professionally probably around 13, 14 years old. I'm 13 years old. And from that moment on, I just kept doing it, man. I love tributes to having making tributes to Elvis Presley, performing tributes to Elvis, and also it's just he's one of a kind entertainer. He has so much charisma and everything. I mean, I was happy that I got to see him a few times live in concert.
Oh, you saw Elvis in concert.
I saw him in 72, 76, and 77, two times in 76, one time in 77, and one in 72.
Wow, that's awesome.
I was just a kid, I saw him when he was on his prime.
Yeah, especially in 72. I mean, that was the
Oh, yeah, he was, oh, man, it was fantastic. I
yeah.
was like, you know, it
Yeah,
was,
my favorite era is probably about 69 to 72, right around there.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, he was rocking and rolling, man. And I mean, same 77, he had more of a heavier, uh, more of a voice, I think, more of a high pitched voice once he reached 76, 77.
Oh yeah, I mean, by the time of 76, 77, I mean, his voice was untouchable. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
it's because it
yeah.
developed and it was so almost operatic, you know.
It's amazing. It's amazing the charisma and the voice and how he could handle the stage, handle the people, and to him, he was just another human being. But to us, he was like fantastic, man. It was amazing.
He was an entertainer for sure.
Oh, yeah. Great, great performer. Great. I think he was a great actor too.
Oh, for sure, yes.
Yeah,
You can only be so good of an actor though when you're doing 15 of the same movie, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
Um, so as you were saying, you started when you were 13, 14 years old. So what made you want to say, I want to do this more professionally and do it more as a job, pretty much?
Well, when I was about 13 years old, like I said, I did it professionally, and back then, they offered me $50. I said, "Holy heck, yeah!" And then I found out once you start getting money for what you enjoy doing, that's when you start doing it professionally. And I kept going, and it just I love singing and performing in front of the crowd, and I like talking to them, and I like seeing all their happy faces.
Well, it's it's such a cool thing with being a tribute artist. You pretty
Oh,
much carry on the legacy and memories of him.
oh yeah. Well, you started around what, 12 years old, 13?
Yeah, I started professionally about 12.
About 12 years old. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got me on your beat here. When you reach my age, you're gonna be like whew, way up there.
Well, I hope I could do it as long as you have and continue to do it. And you're one of the best in the biz, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, man. I love it. You know that it's. I appreciate that. Thank you. I just love performing, man.
I mean, we've done stuff together. I mean, sometimes it's like I can't tell the difference
Oh,
in your
thanks.
voice. It's that
Thank,
good. So
thank.
now, you started in 1972.
I started actually in 1973.
Okay, that's
I,
so you started
I first,
right around when Rick Cicito
oh
started.
yeah, he started. I think he started in 72 or 71. I'm not sure. He had a better management than me. I know that for a fact. And I had managers through the 70s, but I couldn't find that certain manager that would take me to the next level. But I've done so much with the Elvis, and I've recorded professionally. I've done my 45. I recorded it here in Chicago, and then I got with Talent World Productions from Beverly Hills, California, out there, and I started traveling with them. And then it was like I kept going and going and going.
Wow, that's awesome. You've played in so many places. I mean, what would be your top place you've played in?
Las Vegas. Las Vegas, I performed at La Hacienda Hotel and Casino when at that time Red Fox was the headliner. I performed there, and I did a couple of shows at the Imperial Palace too,
Wow.
at, at Caesar's Palace. I think Las Vegas was really well back then. It was really exciting
So that
because
was
since
80.
Elvis died in '77, I was performing out there in the early '80s, and it started. I mean, everybody like, wow, an Elvis tribute artist. It was great.
So that was before in Vegas there was an Elvis on every corner pretty much.
Oh yeah,
I
oh,
mean
yeah.
there was
Every
there
corner,
was
man.
Johnny Hara. Johnny Hara was in Vegas at that time, right?
hmm Johnny
And
Hara was in Vegas. I was playing Chicago when Johnny Hara was playing like 2 blocks away from me in Chicago, and he came to see my show for about 10, 15 minutes. Then I went to go see his show, and so it was everybody was all the ETAs, they got together, they had fun, just like today right now.
that's right. And it's from people I've spoken with. I mean, it's in the when like when you were starting out in the 70s and 80s, and now it's very different. So how is it different now than in the 70s and 80s being a tribute artist?
Well, we were called Elvis impersonators back then. We weren't called ETAs. ETAs, I think Graceland, EPE started that ETAs, Elvis Tribute Artists, because that's when they started their contest, the ultimate Elvis contest. So they named it Elvis Tribute Artist, ETAs. That's a better, I guess that's a better name than Elvis impersonator. But it's with today's new generation like yourself and other young up and coming, ETAs. It's amazing how the impact that Elvis still has on everyone. There was very few of us back then in the '70s and early '80s. There was very few of us. You could probably count them. Now it's I don't know 30, 40,000, something like that,
Well, it's almost
and
like
still growing.
1 in 3 people are an Elvis tribute artist, pretty much.
Oh yeah, I know. It's amazing. There's some Elvis tribute artists where they just sing and they're in plain clothes and they call themselves ETAs. But you know, I call it ETA when they wear the outfit, when they pay their respect to Elvis, they perform out there, mimicking, the that entertainer, that great entertainer, Elvis Presley. And but it's from the '70s to today's. There's so much Elvis going on, and it hasn't died. It will
Oh,
always be
absolutely.
there. It will
It's
always
gonna
be.
live on forever.
It was going to live on for a long time, forever.
I mean, Elvis was such a powerful performer, and I don't think anybody's gonna come close to him. But
No, no,
I mean, his memory and his music is gonna live on forever.
that's right. We're just here just to make people happy now. To let them know what was Elvis all about. Even though we're not close to Elvis Presley, but we're out there just to have people entertain themselves with all his music that's still around with us.
Yes, and in a way, the Elvis tribute artists are almost like ambassadors to like spread his music, pretty much.
Yep, that's right.
Now
That's right.
you've played with many bands. Change of Habit, EAS. Out of those bands, which one would you say is your favorite to perform with?
Let's see, there was the expense account. I think Change of Habit, and I like how they really are authentic. You know,
Yes.
to Elvis. There's a lot more bands out there that they're doing the same thing that Change of Habit has been doing for a long time. But I think Change of Habit.
Yeah, and all of those bands are good, but I think the band has a really tough job because Elvis, usually in a band you watch the drummer for the cues and
Mhm.
stuff, but you got to watch Elvis for his
Yeah,
cues.
oh, yeah,
So the
yep.
band has a tough job because they have to keep your eye on you. You
You have
know,
to keep. And the band doesn't lead the entertainer. The entertainer leads the band.
yes, yes. And now, there's a lot of festivals all over the country, and you've played at the Portage. You've competed in the Portage Festival. Tell us a little about that.
Well, I was asked from Ronnie Craig to be a judge for them. I was a judge for them for 2 years, something like that, 2 or maybe 3 years. I was a judge for them, and then I competed uh, with Portage. Not Portage. I'm talking about. I was talking about lacrosse, but Portage. I went to Portage out there a few years back. Um, I think it was a fun time meeting new friends, new fans. I had a great time at Portage.
Yeah, and it's all for a great cause too. Benefiting the Special Olympics.
That's true. Yeah, it's
It's
true.
I love Portage. Now,
Yeah,
you just mentioned you judged for a couple competitions. Now that has to be tough to judge these guys. How do you tell us a little about you judging these competitions?
well, we have to first, when we judge, we hear the voice. Somewhat we close the eyes. Well, me, I close my eyes and see if I can hear somewhat of an Elvis voice that's close to that Elvis. And we judge it from point system from 1 to 15, which 15 is Elvis, 14 is, to me, 14 is Elvis still. So we judge them by points. Uh, we judge them by how they handle the crowd, their era, if what kind of jumpsuits, costumes, if they're doing. I've seen some ETAs that would do the '68 black leather, and they're doing the helicopter Elvis from the '70s. So we judge them like that. So Elvis never did on the '68 the poke salad Annie kind of dance too. So that's how I judge them. I don't know how about the rest of the judges.
Well, I mean, I could only imagine, all those guys,
And these guys, they're your friends too.
yes,
You
yes.
know, they're your friends, and but when you're asked to be a judge, it's because you've been doing Elvis for a long time, and you know Elvis, what the mannerisms he has, the impact that he creates on stage, and so we go by all kinds of voice, mannerism, charisma, how they handle the crowd.
Yes, yes, for sure. Now, you've been doing this for 30 to 40 years now.
I've
Uh,
been doing it, I think, 47 years now.
wow, that's awesome, man. That's terrific.
Yeah, I was doing it when Elvis was still with us.
That's amazing.
On 76 or 77, I literally ran to the stage when Elvis was leaving. I shook his hand, and that was my all time. I will never forget that.
Wow. Now, over your career, I'm sure you've met famous people and singers and stuff like that. Now, could you tell us a couple of those people you've got to work with or met over your time as an Elvis tribute artist?
Well, I met Red Fox. I met Red Fox. I met see, I met some important people from MTV. VH1. I met Lisa Gibbons. She interviewed me for Entertainment Tonight. This was back in the late 80s. I think it was the 10th anniversary. And how I wish I had a recording of that. Um, see, I met, I opened up shows for the Platters, for Peter Noon. Peter Noon came to see my show where we sang "Love Me Tender" together on stage. I opened up shows for and I met him in person too. Davy Jones from the Monkees, Peter Tork, all the Monkees especially. And so I've done quite a few.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's I'm sure that's a big honor for you.
Oh yes, it is. Those things I'll never forget. You know, it's just I wish I could bring them back, but I wish I would have. See, when I met Davy Jones, we sat like you and I here. We sat like 2 feet apart, 3 feet apart, when we were talking about his song list he was going to do, since I was going to open up his show. So we done that, and I could see, that he was a legend. And this was when he was still alive, a few years back. So with Peter Noon, the same with Peter Noon. Great guy. In fact, we went out after my show. We went out bar hopping, and people really didn't recognize them. And then I see a picture of Peter Noon and Elvis. He met Elvis without me realizing he met Elvis. I just knew him by that he was an Ed Sullivan show and all that, and great songs that he had. But there was I think there was a still picture, a photo picture that I seen with him and Elvis and another guy in this movie set Clambake.
Wow,
So I was like, wow, I wish I would have known that. I would have talked to him about man, how was it meeting Elvis?
that's awesome.
Oh yeah. So, but those are good old days I will never forget.
Yes. Now, what is the best, I don't know how to put it, lesson or that you've learned in your you said 47-year career as an
Yeah.
Elvis tribute artist? What would be like the biggest lesson you learned?
Well, always be true to yourself. When you're on stage paying tribute to Elvis, you know, you're portraying uh, an icon. But when you're off stage, just be yourself, and just that's what I could give every young man advice. Just, and I know that's how you are too. You do your Elvis show, and after that, you're not Elvis. We're not Elvis. We're just ourselves.
Yes, yes. Some I don't want to get too into it, but sometimes people take it too far.
Oh
And
yeah, I said,
I always want to do it as my tribute, as saying almost like thank you, for giving us this music. It's
yeah,
almost I try to be as respectful as I can doing it.
yeah, yeah. When when I was interviewed by Lisa Gibbons from Entertainment Tonight, um, she actually, when we started the interview, she asked me good questions and all that. Then the question she asked me was, "So do you walk around the house wearing an Elvis outfit?" And that's when I stopped and I said, "No, we gotta cut this. I can't do this. How am I gonna wear an Elvis costume? There's only one Elvis." And you know, media is something. Sometimes media they would interview instead the clowns that portray Elvis, that are trying to portray Elvis, and not the good Elvis entertainers.
Yeah, because that's what unfortunately sparks people's interest.
Yeah, yeah,
That's like on America's Got Talent. They purposely search out people that are
yeah,
bad so they get more ratings.
yeah, yeah,
So just but you know what? It's not always about that though. It's always, I always see it as my tribute to Elvis, you know?
Yeah, your tribute to Elvis. That's how it is. Same here. That's my tribute to Elvis, uh, Elvis tribute artist. And if people want to call me Elvis impersonator, it doesn't matter to me. They could call me Elvis impersonator or Elvis tribute artist.
Now, I've seen your show numerous times, and it's absolutely fantastic. You go through all the eras, but the 50s, 60s, 70s. Out of all those eras, what would probably be your most favorite to portray?
Well, all I love all the eras of Elvis, but I love the '70s Elvis more. The older Elvis, '74, '5, '6, '7.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
um, now that I'm older, I sometimes can't. I can't wear the. Uh, it's hard for me to wear the early '70s, '71, '72 Elvis. I'm an older guy, and I can't do the moves that I used to too as well. So, but I love the '74 to '77.
Yeah, and his voice was top notch.
Oh yeah,
If
yeah.
you listen to like Elvis in concert, it's like amazing. What
It's amazing how his voice just could. You know what? He's not even trying, and he
I know
has the
he could
microphone
sing
here.
anything.
It just comes out like natural. When I saw him in concert in '77, I think it was June 4th of '77. Maybe I think that's the date here in Chicago. It was just amazing. It's just I was like on stage. I wasn't on stage, but I was like 10 rows from the stage,
Wow.
and it was just great. And the voice could just carry out. It carries, and it's just beautiful.
So how did you make your voice, starting out and stuff? How did you um train your voice to get Elvis like? Did you play records and sing
I
along to it?
really, since I have more of a deeper voice, I well, when I was a kid, I was always listening to Elvis, mimicking Elvis. I threw myself on the floor and all that, like a lot of the young guys are doing right now that do the '50s. Um, but the way I did it, I just kept singing with Elvis, just kept singing, 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 and uh, that's the only way that my voice came out. And a lot of people started saying it. I close my eyes and I hear almost Elvis.
Wow, that's awesome. And um it's good to watch Elvis. I don't really do it often, watch the other tribute artists. I always watch Elvis.
Oh no, you don't want to imitate another tribute artist. You want to see Elvis. Now they have YouTube, so I always see Elvis. And I mean, even though I think I do a pretty good job, but I still want to see Elvis all the time. Elvis tribute. There's a lot of good Elvis tribute artists out there, but you don't want to copy an Elvis tribute artist. You want to copy Elvis.
Right. And I mean, all I do is search for rare footage on YouTube.
That's what I do too.
I mean,
I
all the
want.
time. And some stuff, most of the time you see it, you're like, okay, I've seen this before. But
Yeah,
every once in a while, you're like, wait, hold on, rewind.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's me. I like to watch the rare footage. Uh, I've collected so much Elvis now from original stuff that I bought from the '70s, maybe late '60s, and I've kept them. So and I sold a lot of stuff too because I have so much Elvis with I got it in the storage now, and but I love the rare Elvis. Where man, I haven't seen that. You know, that's what I like seeing an Elvis. Besides everything else, but I like to see the rare Elvis.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh, he did it this way on this way, and he did this move on this song. and that's what I like seeing.
Yes, yes, for sure. Like, Gary Wesley, of course, and
Oh,
he always makes a joke with me. He goes, people come up to him and say, "Elvis never did that." Oh yeah, yeah, sure. Here he is.
yeah,
But, it's always,
yeah,
there's plenty of. I mean, and there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been released,
yeah.
and
There's
I can only imagine what is on film.
there's so much hundreds and hundreds of hours of Elvis. I'm pretty sure there's hundreds and hundreds of hours of on Elvis on tour. That's the way it is, and everything, and it Elvis in concert, and I know for not for a fact, but I know there's a lot of hours out there of still of Elvis.
Yes, yes, and I guess Graceland is just waiting for the right time to release it, but we're waiting patiently for it. But anyway,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
now you mentioned the jumpsuits earlier. Out of all of the jumpsuits, which one would you probably be your favorite?
I like all the jumpsuits. I like the sundial, the Egyptian jumpsuit, Phoenix jumpsuit. I like the two-piece Elvis. The he wore that later in the years. I like those jumpsuits there, and I love the fringe outfit, '68 outfit he has, and the '50s. Some of the '50s I like too. '50s is easy because you just get a jacket and pants and and that's what Elvis used to wear back in the '50s.
Yes, yes, and
I
that's
love
why uh, what I'm lucky is I can. What I like to do is do it when I'm able to have the chance to do it. I'd like to do Elvis through the years, start at
yeah,
the, 50s and then the 70s.
yeah,
Um, I think that gives a like almost a variety. It's like four shows in one.
that's true. Yeah,
And if you look, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, if you look at 50s Elvis and then 70s Elvis, and you put the video together, it's not even the same person. You wouldn't even think it's the same, totally
I
different
know it's
persona.
unreal. Yeah, it's unreal, and it's amazing what Elvis did in the '50s, '60s, and '70s. And he just kept going and going until his passing on August 16th.
Now, you performed all over the Midwest and in
Uh,
Chicago. Now,
yeah,
there were quite a few Elvis guys in Chicago around the 70s and 80s.
yeah.
Rick Cicito, Dave Carlson, all those guys. There was plenty of them. What was it
Jimmy,
like having all that competition?
we really, I think, well, myself, I don't think it was a competition. I think we were just all putting that we love Elvis. We just loved. There's some ETAs back then, that impersonators back then, that they competed with other. Like, I could do this better than you. I could do that better than you. To me, it's one ear out the other. Back in the '70s, early '70s, I was doing Elvis. I was doing mostly the late '60s, early Elvis. I was a lot younger, and I could move like a little jumping jack, man. But it's sometimes I wonder what happened to all the guys that I used to know from the '70s, early '80s.
Wow. Well, Oscar, I would really like to thank you for coming on the show today. It was an
Thank you so much,
honor.
Logan, for inviting me.
I
Appreciate that.
The whole reason I created this interview show was to get people who started out, and pretty much paved the way for what it
Yeah,
is now.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I would like to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you again, Logan. We'll talk
Thank
to
you.
you later. Bye bye.